Hi everyone, my name is Nina and I'm a leadership coach. In my work, I focus on helping leaders reconnect with themselves and with others. And in these times of uncertainty that we're currently facing, I feel that connection is one of the skills that we need as a society to heal together. This is why I've decided to launch a series of videos for you that will help you use this time to better connect with yourselves and with the people around you and build up the resources and skills that can help us benefit from this as a collective in the long run. As I do believe that the mind and the body are deeply connected, all of these videos come with a complementary meditation and a yoga flow that will pick up the themes that we discuss and that you can do later on. And it will be provided by Christina Bruns, who is currently in India, so you will have the magical Indian surroundings in the background when you see it. So let's get started on today's lesson. I've received a lot of questions from people on how to actually stay calm and stay trusting in the situation, which is why I decided to focus this first video on the concept of grounding. Now, I don't know about you, but only when I hear grounding, it actually creates already an emotional response inside of me, this feeling of letting go and arriving and of being safe. I sometimes like to look at concepts and how to get them into your life by looking at what does it feel like when you do not have it currently. So how do we behave if we do not have grounding? And let's face it, we are currently in a situation of complete uncertainty. We do not know what's going to happen tomorrow. And if we're really honest, change is the only constant. So this is a general state that we're always facing, but it seems that it's currently augmented for us because a lot of these security systems that we usually use by being extra busy or taking extra time for ourselves might be taken away from us, either by increased work for the health sector or also for other industries who are completely slowing down. Of course, also connected to some existential fears that we might have to our business or to our health. So it is an intense time and it's really augmenting all these feelings that come with it. So groundlessness can manifest for me in two ways. One is really this restlessness. And for me, I always visualize when people or myself, I have that, of people being really caught up in their head or really almost like flying away. It's this state of rumination that you're probably quite familiar with and where you do not have the ground or the safety and you're basically exposed to how the winds are changing and you might lose yourself in thoughts or destructive patterns. The other thing when you do not feel grounded enough is not that you kind of lose ground, but for me, it's almost as if you were like keeping yourself to the ground too much, like hiding, so that you do not feel safe enough to really show up, to really live up to your potential. So keeping yourself small is for me also often a sign of people not being grounded enough. So grounding for me really means feeling safe in the present moment, emotionally and physically. And the beauty is that whenever you are fully present, you are in this grounding, you are in the stability that is provided to you. Because in the current moment, in the present moment, you're always safe. In my work, I always work with the premise that every one of us is whole. So when I will share with you now the techniques on how to find grounding, I always assume that there is a side inside of you that is grounded. And it is about unlocking that side and bringing it to light, rather than creating grounding in a situation where it is not available to you. It's always available to you. Before I go into the techniques, I know you're all very brainy people like me, so in order to understand why these techniques help, it's sometimes quite useful to understand what's actually happening in our body when we're losing grounding. And for this, I'd like to briefly give you an overview of the general stress response that is happening. Now, the current uncertainty is for our brain an absolute trigger for our survival instincts. So it goes into our limbic system, which is one of the oldest parts of our brain. And there the amygdala is triggered, which basically filters information and then at some point decides, ooh, this is a threat to our survival, so let's go into our survival mode. So amygdala shouts alarm, and that can be triggered just by you facing this uncertainty, not being allowed to leave the house or anything. Then your nervous system gets triggered and starts certain reactions. You've all heard of the fight, flight, or freeze response. So the nervous system at first gives you a surge in energy. First reaction that you would usually do is look for flight. Can I flee? Can I run away from this opportunity, from this threat? If that doesn't work, we go into self-defense in fight. And if that doesn't work, we go into freeze, so shut down. Now, what's happening for us is that most certainly this response is triggered, and usually we would start with flight, so we run away. Now, we cannot run away, so we get the full cocktail that gives us a surge in energy, but it is not processed from our body because we don't use the energy to run away. What then happens is our body might look for opportunities to fight, which again, this energy cannot be used. So how this can show up for you basically is the flight can be a desperate looking for information that can get you out of the situation, right? This is looking for a way out. It can be obsessing over the news. It can be talking to people that are actually toxic because they provide you with some wrong information. It's really getting into this fast-paced, I need to get out of here mode, which our brain tries to solve by clinging on to rational reasons, which we currently cannot have. You cannot get the information that's gonna make you feel 100% safe because it's not available. The other option with the fight, this can show up in aggression. It's the people who are using quite strong words currently on Instagram to describe the people that are staying outside. Don't get me wrong, it also infuriates me, but this is the fight response. Now what this does is the chemicals that trigger this energy response stay in our body, and you then come into this hyperloop. So your brain says there's stress, releases the hormones. Body doesn't get rid of all these hormones. So what then comes is an information from the body, which says to the brain, hey, there is still stress hormones inside of me. There is still stress around that you have not discovered yet. So the brain is like, okay, so what else can I do? Where else can I look for something that currently threatens me? And this is the hyperloop that kind of throws you off, that we probably all know when it just gets worse and worse. And this is why we need grounding. Because grounding, it pulls us into the present moment. It makes us see that we actually are safe. And it stops the future projections. Now, to wrap this off, let me offer you now some techniques of how to find grounding. First, a disclaimer, grounding might look very differently for each and every one of us. So these are just techniques that have been proven to work for myself or my clients. Feel free to adapt them or amend the techniques just as you need them. In general, how to go about to find grounding, step one is always look where you currently are. So label where in the process you might be. Are you currently frightened, in fear? Are you in anger? And then ask yourself, what do you need to feel safe? Now there's, in my point of view, two options. You can either come via your mind and then let your body follow, or you can start in your body and let your mind follow. If you want to go via your mind because that feels more comfortable, the first tip I can give you is focus. So focus is such a wonderful skill to own because it's also the breeding ground for things as like productivity or creativity. So anything that pulls you into the present moment, that gets your attention into the present moment, is going to make the stability and the safety available to you. This can be something that makes you create, like building something, or getting out your paintbrushes and drawing something, or cooking. It can also be reading a great book, or it can be connecting with somebody in a conversation. Even just focusing your gaze on something can help you ground. So establishing focus is very, very powerful. The second mind-based approach is routine. Routines make us feel safe, and probably your routine might currently be thrown off, which might you feel like you've lost ground. So just be creative and find something that currently makes you feel safe and provides that grounding for you. If you look at your body, one of the most wonderful techniques that I like to use is breathing. I know that a lot of people recommend meditation, and I'm a huge fan of meditation and will also provide something for you afterwards. But for people who are not used to meditating, breathing can be a very, very powerful way to enter this state. The best way to use your breath to calm down and ground is by focusing on your exhales. Usually when people take a breath, what I see them do is that they go like, and it all stays in. This is activation, this is getting energy in, it's not grounding. If you exhale, that calms you down. And that's available all the time to you. A second very powerful technique is literally grounding via your body by just feeling the soles of your feet on the floor. Now, I know it's immensely powerful if you walk barefoot outside, but for some of us, this is currently not available. So just feeling the soles of your feet touch the floor and how the earth carries you sends an immediate response to your brain that you are safe. And also in trauma-informed therapy, for instance, when the patients get caught up in anxiety, what you always do is get them into their body and start focusing on how the feet are on the floor. How do they feel? Are they cold? Are they warm? Move your toes a bit. But this helps you to ground. So for instance, when I'm currently going outside to the supermarket, which I'm not doing this week, but which I did last week, and you pick up on the panic or the hysteria that is outside, taking a conscious breath and feeling your feet on the floor can be very powerful. Other techniques can include just going out in nature, looking at water, looking at the sky. All of these natural earth elements immediately trigger that grounding energy that responds from our nervous system to calm down. And obviously the last trick or recommendation that I want to give you is movement. It's very natural that if you want to feel safe in your body, you need to move. And yoga, for instance, is a wonderful practice to achieve this, which is why we've provided that flow for you. Also, other factors like sleep or nutrition are obviously very helpful, but there's a bunch of videos out on that, so we will not get into it. Anyways, so these were my recommendations on how to find grounding in these times of uncertainty and connect to yourself. If you found it useful, please give us a thumbs up and share it with other people who might also benefit from it. Also, please share your personal techniques on how you find grounding because it might help other people around you. We will post another video tomorrow, and I'm very excited to hear from you. Until then, let's stay connected.